Yeah, are we recording? Excellent. Brilliant. Well, thanks very much everyone for coming to join us. This is a good turnout. Appreciate everyone coming down. My name's Ross Power. I lead product at Checked. And today, I'm joined by Fraser.
Hi. So CEO of Checked, and I guess working with Ross on Creds. Prior to this, I guess we're both tech consultants, did a mix of like CDBCs, decentralized ID, fun stuff. Just kind of came into Checked. So over to you, I think.
Brilliant, So basically we're an identity layer 1, an app chain built on the Cosmos SDK, all focused on basically enabling organizations and individuals to kind of take control of their data, to take control of their identity. We've got some slides to run through, give some context, and then we've got like a build along with us. So if you've got a laptop, an iPad, whatever, you can get it out and you can build with us. It's pretty basic. We've got a no-code solution where you can build and issue verifiable credentials. Let's get started. Let's jump into it. We've got a team there's 14 of us now. We launched in November 2021. Launched our token as well, a check token, and we can talk a little bit about that as well. But we didn't want to take all the glory, because I had to mention our wonderful team of developers as well. Fraser, do you want to take away, and then we'll...
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of a bit of a founding story of where Check came from and why it exists, and also kind of how this feeds into Creds. So probably won't be a surprise that trust in general is broken, whether that is impersonation and fraud. And I think probably the biggest thing right now is generative AI making that drastically worse. So be able to generate documents that you can pass KYC with, but also, and this is really where Check came from, is there's no incentive to solve that trust from a financial perspective. Typically, if you're issuing data that gets reused to fix fraud, you actually don't get any reward for that currently, and that was where kind of Check was coming into. Go on to the next slide, sorry, Ross.
Just to set timer.
And then just to explain credentials, in case anyone hasn't come across that terminology before. So credentials very much just any type of trusted or verified data, any data that kind of needs veracity, and that could be anything from like reusable KYC data, passport data, down to even stuff like receipts. But then if we go into like the metaverse, like Web3 and that kind of thing, you could have an avatar that you can prove represents you as a person. Then you go into things like business, so you can have licenses, KYB documents and company seals, that kind of thing. And you can also have an equivalent for things. So having some kind of identity for an IoT device and having all these kind of bits and pieces. So various different types. I think the key thing really at the core of this is that the subject or the owner of that data really has that ownership and control. Then has different credentials made up of attributes, all of which are trusted to some degree. Cool. So this is, I guess, for anyone who hasn't come across SSI or decentralized ID before. So one of the key things for us is that all personal data for us is off ledger. What that means is you get to have complete privacy, complete kind of hide everything away behind the scenes, but then you can bring them or provide that data to different people without any of it being visible. We've got some slides later on that compare this to NFTs. The best example I can give is with an NFT, you give like the visibilities to someone, they can resolve your address and they can see everything else that is tied into that address. This is entirely different. If you provide a credential to someone, they only see that credential, they don't see anything that is within the wallet itself. The way that this works, just really briefly, is a company or organization issues a credential, they sign it with a set of keys, those keys go onto the ledger. Whenever the user or the holder shares that data in the future to another organization or company, they can check the signature on the data to check where it came from originally and that it came from the holder or the subject itself, all without having to kind of phone home. So the whole thing kind of follows that decentralized concept. Cool. Okay. So this is really the bit that Checked was solving for, the Check token was solving for. So all of these top four are like attributes which credentials already had. So privacy preserving, portable, interoperable, composable, regulatory standards compliant. All of this stuff existed kind of before we got involved. The bit that we brought in is monetizable. So what this means is every time a credential is used or reused, we can enforce a payment back from whoever receives the credential back to whoever issued it in the first place. We could also have payment back from recipient to user or user to issuer, but the bit that never existed before was recipient to issuer. And the next couple of slides will probably explain why that's so important. So if you skip one.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is why that starts to make a really big difference. So actually, if you go on to the next one, then we'll come back. Cool. So let's say you're issuing KYC credentials to a user or receipts or a business license or anything. Whenever that end user uses that credential in the future, we can technically enforce a payment back from the verified through to the issuer itself. What that means is every time that credential gets issued or reused, we can enforce that payment back. So there's now suddenly a massive incentive for issuer number one over here to issue as many credentials, as many like trusted data out to users, give them that data, give that back, get that control back, because they're going to see a financial incentive every single time it gets reused in the future. And that's really kind of the focus on Checked, was to, I guess, kickstart SSI, decentralized ID adoption, by solving supply-side of credentials and attributes. So if you go back to the previous slide now, we can also have a situation where like multiple issuers all provide credentials to a single user. That user then combines those credentials as proof to a verifier or a recipient, and the recipient can then pay in one transaction or set of transactions back to issuers, multiple issuers. So what it now means is the user can combine those proofs however they need to in whatever combination. They could do this multiple times, kind of 1 to n infinity, and just do them in whatever combination, all whilst we can resolve the payments back from verified through to issuer. Yes, cool. So I think this is probably where I start handing over to Ross. So we started on the Check network, so that started off around 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it literally just had this, and that was kind of where it was for about a year and a half. And we basically spent that 2 years doing R&D on privacy-preserving permissionless payments. And the reason why that's so important and why it was so difficult is that because the data is routing off ledger, there was nothing really for us to anchor on or to enforce against. Like, there's no way of us using a smart contract just to enforce that payment. What we had to do is kind of something really tied into the way that credentials work to make it technically enforceable. But we also wanted to do it in a way where we didn't expose anyone's privacy or have some privacy leakage on the way through. So there is nothing tied to the payment on the network which allows, say, an issuer of a credential to see where those credentials are being used. And similarly, there's no way of a third party watching for those payments and identifying where a user is using their data. And that was one of the key things for us. Middle of last year, so as we were going through all of this, we got feedback of like, okay, this is awesome, we love it. We'd really appreciate a set of software as a service APIs, so we're not having to go down to the SDK layers. We've got 3 or 4 that we use, but we're like, okay, we just want to have these as like REST APIs that are super easy to call. And then at the same time, we were getting some more feedback, which is, well, there's a few bits here, but since we started Checked, we haven't seen good self-sovereign ID demos. We haven't seen what like a good example of decentralized or self-sovereign ID where users have that control, they have that privacy. Typically they're super dull, they involve like a load of QR codes and are pretty technical and hard to engage with. And so we'd always wanted to build a demo which was like no code, very easy, and like, as you can probably see and we'll take you through, like somewhat conceptually, visually similar to NFTs in the way that they work. But at the same time, we were again getting feedback of like, we'd love to be able to build decentralized reputation systems, but do it without needing to know anything about credentials or code under the hood, because historically self-sovereign ID has been way too hard and technical to just engage with. So Ross, I think this is probably it. Handing it back to yourself, I guess.
Yeah, of course. So basically, as kind of Fraser said there, I think it kind of touched on this already, but essentially for end customers, whether you're building on each of the different sections, there's different kind of applications and different products depending on your level of experience, your level of your skills and so forth. So the credential SaaS, as kind of Fraser said, that's more when we're meeting with actual developers who are kind of like wanting to build and issue credentials using the APIs, so it's like somewhat more complex. The Creds side of it, and that's what we're going to kind of do today, and if you want to join along and build and issue credentials, you can. Creds is much more targeted at kind of community managers, community moderators, people that don't have a high level of technical skill set, don't need to kind of play around with APIs, just want to be able to build like using no-code solutions themselves.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, and the way this all gets scientific together, everything from like the decentralized ID capabilities to payments is getting surfaced up through like REST APIs through into the studio, which you'll find on the roadmap, which also means that you can kind of go the other way down as well, which is start completely non-technical in the studio and then take your, like, go all the way down to the network to whatever level you're comfortable with. But as you'll probably see, we can basically get people through the studio and issuing credentials in less than 3 minutes, which is kind of where we want to be. And then if you want to go down those layers, that's where it's up to you.
Brilliant. That incredibly intense slide of chaos. This basically just represents like everything that we've kind of built to date at the different levels. And a key part of everything we've kind of been doing, it's all very standard compliant. There's lots of different standards that we follow. So a number of these different organizations here, so like Aries Framework, JavaScript, different Hyperledger projects, which was a lot of what the decentralized identity kind of ecosystem was founded upon, kind of building off of Hyperledger. MultID and Ramo are two other kind of leading SDKs. And then at the top level, you've got various different forms of verifiable credentials, which again, it's like W3C compliant. We're working closely with like the EU and making things very conformant and so forth.
Probably the only other thing I'd probably call out here is DIF, if anyone knows who they are, so the Decentralized ID Foundation. So they basically have two sets of resolvers, one for registering DIDs, one for resolving DIDs. So the other part in all of this is not just the standards compliance bit, but also interop and making sure that we can work with pretty much everything else out there.
Brilliant. So we're going to skip on just for time. So quickly, credential services we kind of mentioned there. That's the middle APIs. If you're interested in kind of, if this sounds interesting to you and you're kind of an engineer, developer, and you want to kind of look at this kind of thing, this is basically where you would go towards. And so with the developer kind of this credential studio, this what you can basically do is have access and get access to a series of different APIs, just like a Swagger, but within the application itself, and start building and issuing credentials and so forth. So relatively easy, just out-of-the-box ability to issue and verify. One of our companies that's been doing this is an organization called Verida for Inclusive. This is essentially something that Fraser kind of touched on at the beginning. They're a KYC provider, and essentially one of the problems with KYC, which I'm sure everyone in the room has experienced before, is that kind of repetitive process whereby you have to scan your face, hold up a thing with the date on, and continuously go through that every single time you want to kind of present and prove who you are. Reusable KYC is essentially a way of more easily reusing your kind of identity credentials over and over again. And so for Inclusive is an organization we're working with. They're looking at volumes of like 10,000 credentials per month. So it's kind of really utilizing the network in a positive way, which has been good success. So Creds. Creds basically is our application which sits on top of this whole thing. We've got a load of t-shirts, lip balm, bags. If you are interested in some merch and you've got dry lips from the snow, then we've got you covered. So what is Creds? So we'll quickly kind of go through this, but the core principle of this is currently our reputation, whether it's Web 2, Web 3, it's incredibly scattered. We have a reputation in wallets, with MetaMask, with our LinkedIn profiles, Instagram, Uber, all these different places you have ratings. It's very difficult to kind of become one unified person, which obviously we are in real life. And the more scattered it is, the more at risk we are of misuse of basically that data. I'm not sure if anyone's seen this video. Has anyone with a show of hands seen this? It's a pretty powerful video on basically how, because our data is very much like out of our control, we don't know how it can be manipulated, particularly with like kind of the emergence of AI solutions and things like that, where people can really start to do deep fakes and things which you've seen before. So what Creds is all about basically is trying to bring your reputation from every one of these different siloed sources all into one place in one identity wallet. So if you think about like within crypto, obviously you've got a crypto wallet, whether it's your Leap, MetaMask, Kepler, and whether you're kind of engaging in these different tokens, different chains, everything's kind of relatively in one place. And we're trying to do that basically with identity. So one person, one reputation can be all in one place. The key part of this is immediately you're thinking, well, if there's one place, isn't that like at risk of one point of access and so forth? The way this essentially works is it's an off-chain identity wallet. You control the keys just like any normal crypto wallet, and you can kind of control what is shared. So it's always under your control. To do this, to basically get all that data, we're exploring some different things. We're looking at kind of self-querying the graph to get that data from indexes. We've got Web 2 providers who can provide data from those different sources. Also had a great chat last night actually with maybe using just like Cosmosm and basically getting data directly, like natively from chains in the Cosmos ecosystem. So another thing we're exploring. And one aspect of this which we're particularly interested in is around kind of like incentivized community engagement campaigns, which is essentially a fancy way of saying airdrops. And airdrops inherently are pretty broken in the ecosystem. Has anyone recently got an airdrop by show of hands? Yeah? I think you got a pretty handsome one recently, didn't you? Yeah, airdrops are great, they work, but generally a lot of the airdrop kind of tools and mechanics out there essentially just try and attract engagement in a very quick and quite fleeting way. So you're not really getting real loyal long-term members, you're getting people that want to make a quick buck and get out. And Masari Data basically did a report recently which found that flipping airdrops is actually 3 times more profitable than holding onto your airdrops. And so there's plenty of people, particularly as kind of the potential new market we're going into emerges, where are just going to be doing this. And so we want to find a way to actually create genuine loyalty.
Just to give a really good example of where it has worked out just by sheer chance. Both of us were at an event in London with someone from Celestia, and I think it was their head of DevRel or someone who was like, oh, because our airdrop was so chunky, we've attracted a load of devs and now they're doing open source work on bugs that we have that we're not actually having to pay for. The toss-up, the counter to that is just had a load of people just shunting the airdrop straight onto exchanges at the same time. So could they have just identified that group of developers, airdropped really handsomely to them, but also then just not done so much elsewhere where it was obviously going to hit exchanges? To extend that, I was at something in Salt Lake recently, a peer summit, and you had the two sides having a bit of a debate against each other. You had a load of VCs and a load of founders, and on their side they're airdrops are shit because you know it's going to hit the market pretty much immediately. And then everyone else had their they still had a second hat on, which is their community member side, which is I love airdrops because free money. And so there's this dichotomy of the way that it plays out. But I think everyone is collectively looking for a better way of doing them to find genuine engagement and community members, as opposed to just tanking the token price. Which I guess is kind of finding genuine people as opposed to bots.
Exactly. I mean, this is exactly part of it. You go on YouTube and you can say how to make 10k like that, but anyone building in the space, those people are not really people that you necessarily want in your ecosystem. You want people who get the airdrop because they've done good, not because they've found a way to game it. Cool, so how do we do that? So with Creds, which I'll show in a minute, we're kind of looking at different ways of doing this. We're building quests, so similar to what things like Galaxy and Zeely and those kind of things do. So for you to kind of build a templated quest so people can repeatedly go through a process, learning journeys and so forth. Also gain analytics and insights on the users themselves, so you can help discover who are your top fans, who are your super fans, who are the people you should engage and put more time in, rather than say wasting time on people who are a little bit more there just to make a quick buck. We're also using Creds as a way of kind of building a Web3 CV, and so there's kind of a few ways of doing this, but essentially within Web3 we've spoken to a number of different people, and the problem that people generally find is if you've been in the space for a long time, you've probably contributed to a number of projects, and that might be seen in your GitHub activity and a great reputation there. But it also is your reputation is also coming to events like this, engaging here, flying to Denver, just getting involved in things. That's all part of what makes you a good and skilled person within the ecosystem. And so with this, you basically can build up a profile, you can set credentials that you've collected to publicly viewable and publicly kind of accessible. People can see and learn more about your profile, but done in a way where you control the credentials and things.
And a couple of tangible examples of that. We're speaking to a project that does bug bounties, and they have a load of devs where they want to be able to show that they've achieved a certain bug bounty or they've contributed, and obviously some of that is GitHub history, but allow them to then port that around and demonstrate it, but still stay anon, so never actually reveal who that real person is underneath it, which is fine. They're being judged on their contributions to projects and not being judged on whether they live in a certain state or not. But the other thing we can also do with this is almost a decentralized proof of personhood protocol where your proof is the fact that you've interacted with different projects, different people, different events, as opposed to doing the slightly dystopian WorldCoin thing of scan your eyeballs and putting a biometric on chain. We basically can do that without any of the privacy implications because it's just who you've interacted with over time. You can prove, say for example, that you don't even need to share your name. You could be we were at the same event and we both saw each other before. We both know this person, and basically don't scan your eyeballs. Don't do that.
Brilliant. We're also looking at a few other things, so a blended kind of Web 2, Web 3 credit score. So if you can get activity from like the chain, if you can understand how someone's engaging in all the different ecosystems they're part of, whether that's ETH, Polygon, Polkadot, Cosmos, you can start to understand whether someone has like a good like trusted reputation, and then exploring ways of actually having that as a blended reputation within kind of Web 2 and Web 3. Particularly interesting to this is in emerging markets, there's a lot more people engaging in crypto, and I think like there's this belief maybe in certain areas where like crypto isn't actually as adopted yet, and when we've spoken to people in emerging markets, like it is proliferated massively, and people have genuinely developed like a good credit and a good credit to be able to kind of access loans and things like that. And so why not enable an opportunity to build up a credit score that enables you to access more loans and stuff, because ultimately like there's like hundreds of millions of people engaging this way, so that's just a massive opportunity.
And there's even just a simple part of that, which is, like, at the moment lending is kind of based on one address's history, but you may have 50 of them. And why not be able to combine that into one actual scoring? But like, no, it's, all of these addresses are me. You shouldn't just be judging me based on one single address that I have. It should be like me in totality, and therefore I can access like much better levels of credit or lower levels of collateralization because you can justify it collectively.
Brilliant. And the final thing to mention, this is one that actually we've had some great chats with the Regen Network, we've had a good conversation with others. Governance within the ecosystem generally was obviously state-based, but what if there was a way of kind of shifting the way that governance was done to be more role-based? So you could have a way in which you kind of trust people to vote and to engage in proposals based on the role credentials that they've been given. So say, for example, you wanted to do sort of programmable, like customizable governance based on different things within your community. So you said, okay, in order to engage in this kind of like this vote, this proposal, you need to have certain credentials. You can say, okay, 60% of the vote, the voting kind of threshold, is going to go to our community members, 30% to our advisors, maybe that's not really what you want to do, might get some to our ambassadors, and then the team are going to also have an allocation. And so it kind of creates a new way of doing voting where it's not just whoever has the biggest bag, whoever's the biggest validators takes it. It's kind of like more based on how you engage. And going a step beyond that, you could say you wanted to do a proposal to kind of change the way you're doing something on chain, and it has a lot of implications. You could say, okay, in order for you to vote on this, you need to have actually attended a webinar or a workshop and have a credential that attests to that. So you can say, I actually understand I'm voting on this because I have enough context to vote on it, rather than I'm voting on it because I've been told to vote and this is where everyone else is voting, which does tend to happen with like blockchain governance quite a lot. Like I think we believe it's perfect because it's not done, it's all very like decentralized, when in fact like we tend to just vote with where the majority goes because that's human nature. So why don't we just use NFTs? Well, or soulbound tokens. You've probably heard of soulbound tokens, like by show of hands. Anyone heard of that last year? Yeah. So it was Vitalik's big thing, and it created quite a good stir. It created a lot of excitement within about identity, which was really positive to us. But I think people quite quickly started to see through why soulbound tokens and like NFTs for identity aren't necessarily the best thing. And our CTO came up with this concept that NFTs for reputation are basically identity herpes. And so the reason for this is that anyone can pass it to your wallet at any time, just like anyone can airdrop something to you at any time. Someone could drop a credential to set into my wallet that says anything about me. Like I can't decide whether I accept that. With verifiable credentials, you choose to decide if it gets accepted, and you choose to decide if someone can access that. Similarly, like you can basically just get doxed because you've had this credential into your wallet. I could just drop a credential into any of your wallets and say, hey, this is who they are. I can put their name, and then immediately, because someone has that information, you're doxed. Like you can't help that. And finally, like if you want to get rid of your herpes, ultimately you've got to spend the money to burn that, and so it's going to come as a cost to you. So I think soulbound tokens have generally there's been quite like natural movement away from them for reasons like this.
Yeah, and I think you can say kind of the same thing for like naming systems. They just expose you with the address that are tied to it. I don't know if anyone saw last year when like the arrest of the Tornado Cash developers happened. Like someone was just shunting like tainted Tornado Cash, like I think just tokens that had gone through it, and just firing them at celebrities who had ENS and just dumping it straight to their wallets, just being like, okay, you now have like tainted tokens in your wallet and there's nothing you can do about it because I can resolve what your address is versus your identity. I think Tor from Secret has a great analogy for this, which is like, because everything on chain is public, everyone's basically walking around with no clothes on. They just don't really think of it that way. But eventually everyone's going to realise, like, oh yeah, I'm just naked in the street. And so really the reason to go down the credential route is you avoid having that realisation 5 years down the line that you've been walking around naked for all that time. Much more private.
That's the experience.
Yes. I do think I got here.
Cool. All right. So yeah, let's go into a build. If you have a laptop, the studio isn't really responsive to mobile. It doesn't work that well yet. So if you've got mobile, probably not. If you have a laptop and you want to come join this with us, obviously feel free. Give you a couple of moments to
Is that Wi-Fi?
get this out. I'm on my own hotspot, unfortunately. I don't know if anyone else has got Wi-Fi. You're welcome to join my hotspot, but it's I don't know if it would be able to take it. But either way, like if you're watching, like just kind of follow along. I'm just going to set up a few things real quickly, and then we can jump into this. So yeah, and let me know if you are going to kind of do it with us. Praying the Wi-Fi is going to be good enough to do this.
And I guess just while Ross is doing this, so we plan for the next few minutes, just take you through a live demo if you want to kind of join in, super easy. And then finish off with a bit more of like the roadmap of where this is going. We mentioned that we've got a load of stuff at the ledger layer, that's getting bubbled up through like the software as a service side. It's going to get put into Creds probably in the next couple of months as well. So we can give a bit more of an idea of like the stuff that's going to start coming into that. So say payments settling in USDC or doing kind of fee abstraction where like you can pay pretty much whatever you want and resolving down to kind of whatever the kind of payment requirement is. But also, yeah, a bunch of other different features that are all going to go into this. So.
Cool. Great. So is everyone kind of with us? So yeah, so I can kind of give you a bit of an idea first of like what we're actually talking about here. So with Creds, we're basically talking about both a wallet itself, but also a front end that actually can like display your credentials to you. So when you see this, you're probably gonna, it's reminiscent of kind of NFT marketplaces, and that was an intentional like design decision because people are familiar with them. There's this like, this idea that people are quite like high like image content and things like that as part of it and so forth. So essentially I've signed in here to my application, and there's two sides of this. There's the application and then there's the studio. The application is where collectors engage, which is essentially users which are collecting credentials, and they sign into this identity wallet. We have that, you can sign in with Telegram, with Discord, with email addresses, so it's pretty easy to get into. And then you can start collecting credentials. And so for example, this is my profile. These are credentials that I've collected over time. So for example, Door Hack workshops, that's a credential that you'll be able to collect today if you want and get entered into an opportunity to win some check. But over the last like couple of months, I was at Cosmoverse. I was joined like a coin club, like an AMA. I attended Nebula Summit. I was at Web Summit. So like it starts to give a feel of basically POAPs. But POAPs are just events. This can be lots of things around your reputation. I have a credential that attests to me being a team member, and we can show a demo of how that's used with a Telegram bot that we've built, so people can verify that I am actually a team member of Creds. I've done some learning journeys. I've got some achievements. I was part of the check 2-year anniversary and so forth. So various different things like that. And these are all, as I said, these are verifiable credentials. What you can do in a verifiable credential as well is you can obviously see information about it. So when we launched the studio, we had an event, we had a credential for it. And then here, when we do this check status, what's happening is this is basically doing a on-chain check of various different aspects which kind of attest to the authenticity, the tamper resistance of the credentials themselves. So it's checking against the on-chain decentralized identifier. So that's the app. We can go into more detail of that. And then we have the studio. And so is anyone like signed in? Are you having any problems?
What is the address?
Yes, you want to go to studio-staging.creds. Yeah, so you want to go to this, and then that should be the screen you see. Cool. And then the app side will be on that staging, but we can just stick to Studio for now if that works. Cool. So then start through a trial. It's completely free to get started with this. And then basically go through the process of creating an on-chain profile. For the benefit of this, I'm just going to kind of create a brand new one because I've used all of my email addresses many times. Right. Cool. So yeah, so if you're going through this with me, yeah, obviously put your email address in there. You can also sign up with other things like this. You'll have to verify your email address as well. Cool. And when that's done, very secure password created. You'll get to this page where you can essentially go ahead and create your on-chain profile. And so the on-chain profile basically means you're creating an on-chain decentralized identifier. This historically has been a very arduous and difficult thing to do for people. It's very much like APIs, things probably that if you're a developer you love doing, but if you're not so much, it's quite difficult. So for today, I'm just going to create an ETH Denver new user. So ETH Denver 2024, that's the organization name. We're going to call it a handle, ETH Denver, and then you can obviously put a website in and so forth. You customize your logo. Here's one I made earlier. Pretty sure I downloaded it. Perhaps not. Just download quickly. So if you're going through the process as well, you want to set an image which will basically be easy to kind of represent what your profile is all about. And this image itself gets saved against that, so every time you issue a credential, people can see that really easily. And then when you get started, you'll see the process here. So what's happening is we're creating a profile, we're creating an image, obviously saving that image so it's easy to kind of link and recognize profile. Creating an issuer DID, which took about a second. Oh, there was an error.
Demo.
Oh no. Classic demo live.
It's okay.
Let's see.
Did it work for anyone else?
I got an error too.
God damn it.
You got an error as well?
Yeah. Brilliant.
Oh, no.
Do you want prod then?
Okay, so that's a shame, but it's fine. We can still we can keep with it. Okay, so if I just go through to Studio. So when you're logged in, you can do this afterwards once I've gone and figured out what the hell just happened there. You'll get to a page where you can basically see this journey of building credentials and stuff. So we'll do it on production. I can issue these to anyone's Telegram email addresses afterwards. So say for example, you have these different ones here. These are different templates or schemas that you can follow. So achievements, endorsements, events, learning credentials and roles. Over time, we're just going to expand this to a number of different things, and also have just a generalized other, so you don't have to stick with those ones. So, say for example, we wanted to do an endorsement, and I'm going to endorse everyone here as being here. So, for example, choose an endorsement. You go through there, and we can say DoorHacks attendee. Something like this, endorsement, and the Creds verifies the holder of the workshop as an example. Cool. You can then customize all the different attributes and things like this. So say for example, the expertise, we can say this is a hacker expertise, the level. This is something that we're going to expand to in the future, but depending on the level, we can do different color. Say this could be a gold or a silver or something like that to try and show it in a different way in your wallet. So we're going to say this is a level 7. This is a pretty epic credential because not many people have made the effort. Platform, campaign, topic, and so forth. So you can add different pieces of information. You can then upload some artwork. So let me just grab. Let's just get a picture of Denver and use that as the image. Any preferences?
That one.
Top right.
Yeah,
This one?
The one before.
Which one?
Oh, that one. No, either.
Let's do this one. There's an average look. Cheers. Beautiful. Cool. So then we can grab an image of the Denver skyline, and here we go. So you're customizing your artwork. So if you've ever kind of built out NFTs, not that far off it. Continue, and then what we can also do is set a unique claim code. It makes it super easy to claim it. So if I just call this one, say ETH Denver, as an example. And then when you save that credential basically gets saved against your issuer DID, just using a standard. We're moving towards a Postgres database at the moment. And then you can go and issue the credential. And so far we actually don't have wallet login. We are exploring that, but from everyone that we spoke to up to date, when we were doing our product research and stuff, Generally, people just find it easier to log in with Telegram, with Discord. But with that in mind, that's not your kind of like, that's not what your wallet is associated with. So you log in with a profile and it gets you access to it, but your actual wallet has still got like a private key, like a seed to back it up and things like that. This is more just to make it easier to issue to people. So there's a ton of credentials here because our community manager, Matt, just loves Creds, which is good. And we've got one of our community fans in the room here, so he's probably received many of these. So we built an endorsement. What was it called? It was called ETH Denver. Motion? I don't think it's that one. Yeah, let's go to the library and see what it's called. Cool. What did I call it? Denver. God, that should remember that.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, Dora. Okay, so we've got Dora Extendee, was actually one that we just made. We've also got a workshop one which you can claim afterwards. Cool. So we found it. I could either send you a claim code, and the claim code would basically just like send you straight through to claiming it, or I can issue it then. So issuing it, like I said, Telegram, email, Discord, whatever you want to do, makes it super easy to issue it to you. So we've got our one there, Dora Extendee, issuance. Anyone want this credential? Yeah. Cool. What's your Telegram ID?
Cosmos
Yep.
_. Pause.
Underscore.
Pause.
Oh, cool.
Is
what I mean.
that pause?
Pause. HOSS.
Oh, HOSS. HOSS. Cool. Anyone else?
Does it need to be capitalized?
Yeah, because if it is, it's stuff. I don't know. It would be.
Yeah.
It should be fine.
It shouldn't be a problem. I mean,
It's
issue one to
definitely
myself
fine.
so we can actually show it in here. Anyone else want one?
Ryan Christo.
Yeah.
RyanChristo.
Is that right? Sorry.
Chriso.
RyanChristo.
Ryan Christo?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, nice. Let's do those two. You can also just claim afterwards at some point. Cool. So then we go issue credential, and essentially that goes and gets stored in like a pending state. So going back to the identity herpes, that's not in your wallet unless you want it to be. So when you actually go into Creds, if you just go to app.creds, sign in with your Telegram, that cred will be waiting for you, but it will be in like a pending state. So yeah, I've not just sent it across to you without your permission. If I go to my wallet now, let's just do a quick refresh here. And because I issued it to my Telegram, this account is connected to my Telegram, we'll be able to see that this is, it should appear here and on the Wi-Fi. Good news, I can see mountains. Cool, and so yeah, there we go, like the credential is in my wallet and I can choose to then kind of claim it down, so that's the one, so it's an endorsement attendee. So yeah, so hopefully that kind of gives a bit of an idea of kind of the journey that you go through there. The studio is kind of evolving to have a number of different things, so we're bringing in analytics, we're bringing quests and campaigns. We're also, and I can talk more about the roadmap on this as well, before we finish as well. So
just one thing before you do that, if you go to the app side again, the wallet side, and just go and share as an example, just to show kind of.
Oh yeah, I'll go through the like profile stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
That's a good idea. So what happens once you've collected those credentials? Like Fraser said. So, say for example, I wanted to prove that I was at this event. I can prove that I was at this event with a credential without showing who I am, or I can prove I was at this event and show who I am. And so you'll see here, you've got these like identity credentials here. So because I've connected my Telegram, I've connected my Discord, I've connected my email, I have a credential that's associated with those. So that can be used as my kind of like linkage to me as an individual, because the credentials themselves don't contain anything about my identity. So that helps, and I think kind of Fraser mentioned this earlier, that helps you to kind of do a bit of like selective disclosure, have the kind of control to say whether or not I want to share who I am. So say for example, I did, so I'm going to choose my Telegram profile because my Telegram is my name, so it's going to be pretty easy for people to know. And I can then say, cool, so I want to prove to someone that I'm just like a super loyal cosmonaut, whatever it is. So I can say, you know what, I was at Cosmoverse, I was in a coin club thing, I went to Nebula Summit, I'm a member of Checked, so I can kind of like start building up these different credentials. I've completed a learning journey, and I was at this event recently. So I've kind of like built up a number of different credentials that I kind of want to be able to share. Hit share credential, and that's going to create kind of like a private link which I can then share. So say for example, I took that link and I took it to Telegram wherever I wanted to. that's going to create like a public view. So anyone that goes to this link will be able to see all the credentials I have and check those as well. So I can go into that, I can see these have been verified, I can see all the attributes of it as well.
The other benefit of doing it this way as well is you can see the relationships and the shares that you've done previously, and you can also then go and tear them down. So you can go and share someone a link, they can view it once, and then the point where you've seen them see it, you can be like, okay, I'm going to go and tear that down. And then if they go to that link again, there'll just be nothing there for them to see. And the idea is over time you can just share different combinations of data, but again, like you know who you shared that data to, and if you want to redact it as well.
Exactly. And then the second part of that is we built like that share function out as like our immediate type way of sharing credentials. Quite quickly we realized that people generally will just keep sharing the same credentials because it's like, this is the ones I want to share. So that's why we decided to build a profile, and I touched on this earlier with the Web3 CV thing. So with my profile, I can then choose to like decide which credentials I put publicly available. So all the credentials set here right now are in a public and in private right now. So if say I wanted to say put this one into my private my public space, so the DoraHacks one, and I also want to put my Telegram profile, I'm happy to dox myself because I already have within this. I then have a public profile, and so I can kind of see all the different credentials that I've set to public. And if I was to open this like view public link, it becomes somewhat of an X or a LinkedIn profile. And so if anyone went to profile.creds.xyz/horsepower, they would be able to see all the different credentials I've set to public as well. We've got a few more minutes, so one final thing I want to share which might be interesting is just a quick thing on a bot we built as well, because this is something that we've kind of been rolling out a bit more. I have a quick video that Fraser and I recorded which kind of shows this. And so the problem that we're solving here is if you're running a Telegram community, Discord, but this has been built out with Telegram. If you're a new community member and you join a Telegram group, you may have experienced, maybe with a show of hands, have you ever experienced when you join a group and then immediately someone apparently from the team messages you saying like, hey, you know, like,
Can I help you,
can I help you, sir? Like, can I, you know, all this kind of stuff. But you don't know whether they're like legit, like they're the person that you really want to engage with. So what we built was basically a bot that allows you to actually go and check that. So what you'll see is on the left-hand side, you can see Fraser. He's just received a message from a certain Ross, but who knows? And you can see it says, hey, quick one, could you send me some ether gas, just sorting something out. So like a relatively like standard scammer message, which I know we get a lot.
So on the left, Fraser here has just received a message from a Ross Power. In this scenario, he's not sure whether this is the real Ross Power or a scammer. So he's going to just respond saying, hey, I'm just going to verify you and make sure that you can be trusted. So in doing so, he's going to forward the message I sent to the Telegram bot, the Creds.xyz bot itself. And Ross, on the right-hand side, receives a message to go verify his credentials. Opening up that link basically takes him straight to Creds app. And you can see that he's been requested to prove that he has a team member credential. So he's going to look and find a credential which indeed contains a team member credential inside it. This would be in one of his presentations. Select that, and that triggers a check and a verification that indeed he has the correct credentials and he is indeed a team member at checked. That message gets forwarded back to Fraser, and he can go see that that has been verified and also check the credentials that Ross has shared. This just allows him to have total trust in the legitimacy, integrity, authenticity of the person he's communicating with.
And that was one of the reasons why we built everything into the browser. So we don't need anyone to like go into a specific application or anything, and we can just open up both of these views inside Telegram in a way that like neither party, neither myself or Ross in that view, actually needed to go outside of anything. Everything just rooted within Telegram in the browser window. We built something similar for Discord, but what we found is it's just the smoother journey on Telegram. Plus, it's where we get a dominant amount of like scam messages. As a test, we had I think one of our ambassadors join like our community channel, and within about somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds, they got an immediate message from a fake ambassador to be like, "Hi, can I help you do blah 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 blah?" And we obviously knew it was coming because this happens all the time, but it's something we're really looking to like actually get rid of and just try and avoid because it's a scourge and everyone hates it.
Mind if I ask a question on that?
Yeah, sure.
So the way that it's working is whoever is actually on the other end of that, whether it's a scammer or not, is given a link to verify their credential.
So the sequence that's happening there is like I get a message from someone
Yeah.
purporting to be, say, a check team member. I then forward that to the Telegram bot that we have.
Correct.
The bot can then route that request to the individual based on the message ID. So it goes basically a message goes via Telegram to that individual.
To the scammer.
To the scammer or whoever sends the first message.
Right.
They then open that up, which takes them into like the Creds wallet and asks for a specific credential, which if they had it, they would work for the team. So only at that point, whether they approve or deny it, we know whether they're legitimate or not. So
Is
obviously,
there any like timeout on that where like maybe they go to the link and they don't click anything and then there's a response returned saying
yeah. So
It's
basically, if you, it's only what like it only responds. Well, sorry, it only responds positively like if you provide the credential. Otherwise, it's just like they haven't been able to do so. Currently, there's no timeout, mostly because like we've had these going on ad hoc. So like sometimes I'll get a verification request that's in the middle of my night where I've like messaged someone, they want to check who I am, but I haven't seen it until the next morning. So there's currently no timeout, but there's no reason you couldn't put one in there if you were like, okay, I want it to be within a certain window, therefore like if it's not surfaced within 60 seconds to 2 minutes, then we just send an auto message which is like, this person hasn't verified.
Yeah, I'm mostly thinking about the psychology of the user that needs support and how demanding those people are anyways.
Yeah.
And how easy it is to manipulate.
Yeah.
Especially if they're new and they're like, oh, I lost my credential, I can't do it right now, I'll do it later, let me help you anyways. Obviously nobody in this room is going to fall for that, but it is.
The nice thing for us that we're trying, like obviously there's the new community member. We're also gauging it for like people who are just in the community that may then get a message from someone saying that they're an ambassador or a mod, and just try to protect them of like, get them into the habit of like, you can check everyone very, very easily, and they will always, like you'll never have a situation where they say like, oh, I don't know how to get my credential or something, because you've seen how quick it is. It's literally hit a link, click approve, and the whole thing flows through. So you're right, like if you're a new community member, it might feel a bit weird. Our hope is that like, if we make it a bit more pervasive, it's just easy. And also, if you are a community member, you're just inherently protected from like anyone interacting with the team will always be able to prove who they are, like in channel without having to leave as well, which is kind of the aim. But yeah, good questions.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the key thing with the bot as well, like that video, for example, was only made like 2 weeks ago, and we're now kind of like it's classic product. It's just like experimentation. So showing that and having that question is exactly what we need to figure out. So we're going to be adding our ambassadors and our moderators, also giving them a credential and making sure that they can basically get checked as well, and then hopefully find other companies that want to try it out as well, and then we'll find those. I think the timeout is a very true, very good idea, but that needs to be the case as well. Cool. I think we're kind of like running towards the end. I don't know exactly like how much time we have, but it's pretty informal. So yeah, just thought I'd like quickly touch on our product roadmap as well, see if there's anything if there's anything you found interesting today, just to tell you a little bit about what's coming next. You can check out our roadmap as well, if you have QR code. So kind of some of the things that we did already this year, we built the customizer reusable profiles. I kind of shared that already. We've also given the opportunity for people to pay to get verified, so we can kind of have like different levels of verification for the app as well. On like just broadly check, like we built out a proof of concept to basically be able to pay with fiat currency for verifying credential and doing things like this. Other things that are quite exciting, we're exploring verifiable AI in quite a big way. We were at the AI Day yesterday. We were kind of exploring various different aspects of verifying hardware, verifying GPU for decentralized AI systems which are emerging, helping people to kind of verify when they're doing like deep in stuff, so that kind of side of things as well. And then also looking at how you can kind of do better verifications for whether something's AI versus human, and I think that's something that's going to emerge even more so now around kind of like trying to protect human creativity and ingenuity from, so is this something that's genuinely human or AI? And I think there was a great talk yesterday at the AI event which kind of said human creativity is actually going to become even higher value in this kind of new era of AI, because it's going to be like so few and far between that people are actually having a genuinely human created thing. So that's something that we're pretty interested in. I mentioned other credentials that we want to issue, and one of the key things that we're looking at is doing issuance of credentials based on on-chain activity. So being able to kind of do a programmatic way in which someone could say, okay, I want to issue a credential when someone does a swap, or someone does like LPs in osmosis, or someone performs like a custom action which is on whatever of your chains. And so looking at a few different ways of doing that.
Just again, tangible example of that, like if you're a new chain that's looking to attract like aggressive like DeFi users who are like, I don't know, they trade all the time and they are like whales, those people are very hard to find at the moment. Whereas the potential here is like they could self-identify and then you could reward them to kind of bridge across. You could be super targeted about who you're kind of airdropping into. And I can see that I think we're almost getting
We're running out of time. Cool. Okay, yeah, we just run through. So yeah, so you can check out our roadmap here, and then I think that's kind of the key things. But
probably the only other one that's worth really calling out, just if you scroll slightly, is basically the APIs on Creds being exposed so that anyone can do this programmatically. The idea is you can start off in the studio and go down into the APIs, go into SDKs as you want to, do it more detail, as well as like actually getting the payment side of things into checks into Creds, where you can start selling or having payment for verifications like in there as well.
And one more I actually did want to mention. There's an organisation called NimLab. They're a Cosmos project. They recently did a checked community pool funded project to basically bring verifiable credentials on chain in terms of doing ZK proofs on chain. And so what it means is we're going to basically be exploring using Cosmosm to basically allow other Cosmos projects to access these verifiable credentials and start to do what we're doing, but kind of like cross chain. Before we finish, I do just want to make sure give you the opportunity to collect the cred, and that will allow you to kind of go through the process there. So if you scan this QR code, you'll be able to collect this Dora Hacks workshop. There is rewards that our marketing team are kind of doing for this, so scan this cred. I think we'll share in our Telegram group and on our Twitter, so just go to @checked or follow me on Twitter, Ross Power, and we'll basically just share kind of how you can get in the chance to get the rewards. I'll kind of come back to that, I'll leave that one up. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, thanks for the questions, we enjoyed it. Cheers.